I've spoken a lot about this experiment where they've done a pine plantation into Syntropic Agroforestry, a few different trials, one where they cut everything down, others where they left like maybe 60 or 80% of the canopy up, just to see the response and how the Syntropic system responded to that. We're finally here. I've been talking about this project for years. We're here to see. It's beautiful. We're going to see some cool stuff, guarantee.
Yeah, welcome to our forest.
Yeah, so that's the typical pine plantation here.
So he's just saying that these pine monocultures are all around here. This is like, especially flying in when I was arriving here, pine monocultures everywhere. And so this is what it looks like underneath.
So after the war, a lot of the trees were cut down, or during the war, and then they replanted it all, and it's all pine. So it's a lot of even age pine between 70 and 90 years old, all over the place essentially. And you can see it suffering a lot because the conditions are just not great, and it's not a great ecosystem. The soil, the litter they drop, it doesn't really decompose. The whole system, the soil, it becomes hydrophobic, and it's not what we're looking for at all.
We're gonna dive in. We're going to dive into first looking at the soil conditions, and then we're going to see what's actually happening inside of each of these systems, the results, what's working well, what's not. First, the soil. Obviously, pine monoculture. What are we looking at?
Yeah, the soil is basically the worst you can get here in this area. It's like literally pure sand. We got this soil tested and it had like pH of 3, no available nutrients, but available aluminium, and it was like completely...
It was completely degraded.
Yeah, it was completely degraded and just, devastated by the pine monoculture basically. But also the conditions in the first place were just not very well.
The parent material here is just super weak, right? It's very young, glacial landscapes, and then sometimes you just have spots with rocks and sand, essentially.
The people told us like you have to put 10 tons of lime here to grow any kind of like herb or like fruit tree or any other tree. So we just did it without liming or anything, and you can see amazing difference between the area where there's a full cut, clear cut and
I know it feels naughty using the word clear cut because it has this connotation. It was clear cut. It was fully cleared. The material wasn't taken away though.
Yes, just the best wood was taken away. The best wood was sold, but all the weird pieces and the crowns were left.
So clear cut in that respect. Everything was cut. Whereas in this area that we're standing kind of at the edge of, was this the 60 or 80% cut?
Well, 60% was retained, 40% was cut, and over there 60% was cut. Exactly, of the original stand.
So 40% was retained here.
Yeah, exactly, and 60 over there.
And so this area is doing better than the 60% retention.
Well, actually, between the two different retention schemes, you don't really see any visual obvious differences, I would say.
No.
Right, but you see a very clear one between the clear cut and the retention.
Well,
right?
and that's super clear just walking in here, being here, looking over there, the drone footage, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you attribute that to? Or is it doesn't matter, it just is?
There's a lot of factors.
Yes.
Well, one thing, if you look at this clear cut, it's not on a vast landscape level, right? We just have, what is that? It's a half a hectare or a bit more than half a hectare of a clear cut. So it's more really a hole in the forest, and you still have these edge effects and the improved microclimate from the forest. And at the same time, comparing it to the retention zone, you don't have these very established trees on a soil like this where there's very little available resources. So this is probably one factor.
Yes, another factor I would say is definitely the impulse that we got from cutting out all of the old trees. So first of all the mycorrhizal connections could be formed completely new, whereas here in the old part they were already quite established, I would say. and at the same time there was a huge impulse of bringing a lot of biodiversity, a lot by seed here into the soil that was kind of also not virgin, but it was not intensively cultivated for the last 80 years. It was basically untouched except of the roads that go here through the forest, and we will see the difference. In my opinion, there was still a huge spore bank in the soil and a lot of mycorrhiza fungi that were stimulated to reconnect again after the clear cut, and I think as maybe this part would have behaved similar to this if we would have pruned those trees here, but that's no option. They are way too big, but I think this is a great example of disturbance creates abundance basically.
I think this is a great example of what's possible even post pine plantation, monoculture. People say, the soil's ruined. Well, let's go take a look. We'll see. This is beautiful.
What's special here, I think, is that they use horses to move all the lumber, move everything around. So there was not a lot of compaction created, contrary to our arable kind of fields where we drive with big machines. And then, all the retention of the biomass here is huge. I think one professor, he said that like this initially could have made a huge difference, like a huge impact on the microclimate, just when these small seedlings are kind of protected by these logs. And
so
there might be truth to that as well. And now I think it's gonna serve as kind of a water storage, really improving the soil here. And we're starting to see, all this beautiful leaf litter. Before it was just pine needles, and now we're starting to create the proper stuff that we're looking for here in the forest.
So we basically took all the old the branches and logs that were too unvaluable to sell and mulched them on the sides, and all the crown material we shredded and mulched in the middle, so you can still see. And people say you should not mulch with pine needles or like conifer wood, but this was pure conifer wood and pine needles, and it's doing well. And as you can see here, the top layer is like already crazy black, and I remember the scientists that took samples here, they thought this was a sampling issue because the soil was too black to be true and too
rich in
good,
organic matter.
too rich,
and lots of mycelium, and it's pretty impressive, to be honest. One slight disadvantage that can come when you don't retain any trees is like we have late frost issues, and this was actually worse here in the clear cut compared to the retention. But you see it. I mean, it tolerates it, right? So these initial shoots that come out, they maybe die back, and then the plant recovers. There might just be an issue with it having more than one stem.
Do you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me a lot of the Cabruca agroforestry, especially in South Brazil, where they are working with a lot more established forests. Did you visit any Cabruca sites when you were in Brazil?
No.
Cabruca is basically working agroforestry within an existing forest. And the problem with a lot of more traditional Cabruca is it's more like this, where you have these stagnant emergent trees that you don't prune, that you don't remove. Whereas the more syntropic Cabruca that we saw at Sitio Nascente do Alvoredo with Nico, Tiago, Renata, and Bernardo, shout out, it looked more like this, which was the more like uncomfy feeling, where I was standing in Brazil at the rainforest with a chainsaw and like cutting trees down to do this. And this is what happens. And you can see the difference when you're leveling a system, reincorporating it back in, even if it's not 100% of the organic material, right? Taking away some of the more valuable timber, putting the rest, organizing it, and planting the diversity. You can see the difference here and there, leaving the more stagnant, emergent, dominant, which is typical of like cacao Cabruca. Typically, they'll clear the rainforest underneath, leave the emergent trees, and then plant the cacao. And so, I don't know how that makes sense in your brain, but basically, a really cool demonstration of what's possible post-pine monoculture in terrible soil conditions with diversity, with thoughtful organizing of the available resources. Super cool. And so everything's organized, super dense lines, like 1.5 meters almost between these lines.
Yeah, the idea here was that there's one focus line, one production line basically, and then the two sides on the two lines on the side are going to serve as biomass lines for the production line. And we have a lot of chestnuts and also even aronia in here. That's an edible fruit. But we were using the chestnut initially because we were inspired by a project close to here, where actually a guy over 100 years ago did almost exactly the same. So he was also transitioning a pine monoculture with chop and drop methods, using a lot of chestnut, and now there's like the most beautiful forest in this area basically. And so we went there and collected a lot of those chestnuts, and we also planted some production varieties in here, but none of them germinated, only the local ones. And we will probably not use it as timber or fruit or nut trees, because they are so great, they're growing so amazingly that we are probably going to use them as biomass trees in the future. And
eventually timber?
Yes.
Yeah, eventually timber. Okay.
Yes. So basically this here was to show like a lot of foresters come and be like, oh, it's too diverse, and what are you going to do with this kind of wood? But all those trees have a certain role, and they are already creating here a very nice diverse forest, and we have still a lot of opportunities to decide what is going to be the main focus on this system. Are we actually maybe able to get some fruits out of this forest, even though it would be illegal in Germany, or are we going to get some nice timber, or is it just an amazing example of regenerating landscape after pine monoculture? But yeah, we will see. We have all the options, and I think it cannot go wrong.
Beautifully said.
Actually, I mean, I would like to highlight one potential use for this. So recently we had a big group here of people working in forestry in this area, and for them it was hard to imagine to establish something like this because of the initial costs, and how to set all this up. It's all fenced because we have very high pressure, like deer pressure, wildlife pressure, that kills a lot of seedlings. But a great use could be to use this as like a future seed bank. So we're looking at thousands of hectares around us that are looking like these pine monocultures, and there's just not enough like native trees, not enough deciduous trees, which can produce seed to even like grow there, to like establish deciduous forest in the long run. And if you just create a few of these super diverse plots, within a couple decades, you'll have a huge seed potential that will be distributed by squirrels, by nuthatches, different birds. And I think that could be a great application for those kind of very intense, diverse, small systems. Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it already, it is that. It is a great diverse application. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying, and it doesn't need to be hundreds and hundreds of hectares, but these nodes.
Yeah.
Because that's how forest and distribution systems like that work. It's like, it's a node, it's a pocket, it's a patch, and then it'll spread.
Yeah.
And then that, and then over here.
Yeah, and I mean all the berries here, they're amazing for the wildlife. Like the birds love this place. If you look around, it's a desert basically, because there's just pines and there's nothing growing even in the understory, that could be interesting for insects or birds or any wildlife.
Only an invasive North American
Yeah.
kind of cherry, which nobody really likes, but probably also serves a purpose here.
Yes, and here this is booming with life, and it's very, very beautiful. And I think one interesting thing to highlight as well, the people that did the research here from the TU München, they were very amazing professor, Farha Assad is her name, and she was basically they were checking the vitality of the trees and the photosynthetic rate, and even the very shade-loving seedlings like from the Buche? Beech from the red beech, they were actually performing way better here in the clear cut with full sun than with the shade in here, because in my opinion they were just fed by the mycorrhiza and protected, and being just nourished in a better way because of the microbiology. And we will see over there that or another proof for that theory, because in the road where the big forestry machines were going, we were even subsoiling, so we got rid of all the compaction, but no tree survived, not one single tree, because just the whole seed spore bank and all the microbiome that is present in this untouched soil here was lost there by compaction, I don't know, 20 years ago or 60 years ago, and never came back. And we were not able to get rid of, or we got rid of the compaction, but we could not prevent the trees from dying, because they just were facing those brutal conditions: sandy soil, high acidity, and high aluminium. Yeah.
This is crazy. I really like this project. I think it has a lot of really cool insights to take away, and I especially like what you said, Philip, about how these don't need to be massive, huge, like hundreds and thousands of hectares, but nodes within deserts. I like what you said about that too, Lawrence. Like, it's monoculture is a desert. We see a lot of this in New Zealand with pine monoculture, very similar, trickier terrain, albeit, but like this is an opportunity for preserving a lot of those native genetics, a lot of just general biodiversity and the health that brings in a relatively compact, bite-sized piece of land. How big is this section? How many is this?
0.6 hectares, I think.
Yeah.
0.6 hectares. Super manageable.
And the whole plot is 1 hectare.
Yeah. So, I think I wasn't here, but like setting it up was a big task. But since then, fairly little labor. Like, we actually will probably stop pruning cutting the grass as well. Here's a bit more, because this is where the big machines were driving before, so grass is a bit more prominent. But in the other sections, we're not going to do much until we start potentially pruning the trees, the support species. But yeah.
I love how those poplar just like make their wave and sound in the wind.
They actually, you know what they're called in Latin? It's Populus tremula. It means like the weeping, well, not weeping. What is that called? This one, the shaking willow. The same, like that's the German name.
Love
shaking willow.
Love it.
Poplar or willow?
Poplar, the shaking poplar. Sorry.
I think I was here setting it up, and I have to mention that there was like literally a genius that designed the system, Renke de Vries, and he was also managing and designing all the other systems, and he was pushing this system forward. And already after implementing, he said, okay, I would never do this mulching with the logs again, because this was almost the highest labor a requirement because we had to arrange all of them by hand and cut them in pieces. So I think, or he said in the next situation like this, he would shred all the trees and put everywhere wood chips and plant in that. So to save labor, just shredding like the whole trees that are here with a big shredder and then like distributing it. Yeah.
So for the next system, we're gonna get a horse and we're gonna mount our little seeding implement onto the horse, and then we,
Yes. And get the huge shredder mounted behind the horse.
All horsepower.
Once I get my horse, we'll get there. But I can probably attest to that because I've done a similar install where it was we have a bunch of existing organic matter, a bunch of trees. We spent the time, we cut them. We even used a wood splitter to split them so they're facing down on the open side. That was the most labor. We're never doing that again. I think that I like that idea of just chip everything you possibly can, because the labor of this, I can imagine, would have been tremendous.
It was insane. It was a lot of fun, especially to cut down all the trees. But then at some point it was just unbearable or too crazy. I think it took us 2 or 3 months with 10 people, 8 hours a day. But
all billable hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is fascinating. I really am glad that we came here because you've been telling me about this particular example and project since we met a year and a half ago. I've been passing it on to the people in the fellowship, which, by the way, you should be in the fellowship if you're not already. What are you doing? At least in the family. It's free. To be here in person and to see it and to see the examples and to see and hear your thoughts moving forward, it's a privilege. Yeah. Really special to be here. This is something that I didn't catch quite earlier. This had heavy machinery on it as an access, super compacted, and you can see nothing really worked very well. Like, the grass is doing great, but other than that, same species assortment, just like all of it more or less failed here. Earlier in succession, some things doing better. Looks a little bit more like these systems back here. Super stunty.
Even though we subsoiled and like shallow plowed the soil, like makes no sense except of that there's the microbial community missing, in my opinion. Yeah.
That's something we should definitely test.
Yeah.
Properly.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
There's
I don't
really
know.
interesting theories that you can.
Was hast du gemacht?